The elders that will be coming up to visit with us, there'll be 5 in total, and 4 of them have been introduced previously. And so the person who's new to the group, her name is Hope Flanagan. She's from the people of Tonawanda Seneca Reservation. Hope has worked for different Native agencies, including the Division of Indian Work Youth Leadership Development Program, the Minneapolis Indian Center, Anishinaabe Academy, Waikoki, I'm sorry, I don't speak Ojibwe so well, Dagagan Ojibwe Mission Program. She began learning from the I'll let her introduce these names. But anyhow, she began learning about plants and plant teachings, and she's taught in an immersion classroom. Hope currently holds or works at Dream of Wild Health, where she teaches Native young people about plants and their gifts. So if everybody could make their way up here. I should mention, too, that each of our folks are going to have about 12 minutes to speak, which means that there won't be time for questions. So listen well, and I'm sure they won't mind if you have something concerning that you want to visit with them, that you can certainly visit with them after the conference. So sorry about the limitation. We'll have closing after this gets done, a prayer by a local person. And then we'll do a final roundup, and then the conference will be concluded. So the folks are just going to kind of give share their wisdom with us, and I really appreciate that. And thanks everyone for their time. And let's just start. We'll start here with Mrs. Warren and go across.
Well, hello everyone. Again, I was very impressed with this whole organization's ability to do what they did the past 3 days. I'm always busy trying to think about what is it that I can take home and share with not just our students, of course. They're always primary on my mind because I work with them every day. And I mentor all of them, so I was thinking this morning about all the various emotions that we've all gone through as well from the speakers, and of course, as we get to know others here in this room, participants who also are doing wonderful things in their communities. So I just have a whole slew of notes that I've taken as I hear someone say something that's so meaningful and you can expand on it. And there's a lot of them here during these days. And the one word that I would go home with today is hope. Having heard all these wonderful speakers and the knowledge shared based on tradition and Western education. That's been the theme of how we can merge these two knowledge bases to make a difference in our communities. And my opportunity to do that, of course, is with our students, basically, besides others that I have contact with. So I've learned a lot being here, listening, and even this today, I thought, wow, this is going to be so sad walking out here after hearing again about effects, cumulative effects of historical trauma, because we all know about it, we live it. Our students are living it today as I mentor them. But I'm going away with hope. Well, part of it is because of our wonderful dancing. I'm older than Chubby Checker, by the way. And which is fine. It's good to be an elder. It's good to have had years of experience that you can share. And that's what I think we all have, that responsibility as elders to share what we know in the best way we can. And I have this wide open way to do it at home with the students at the College of Nursing. I was thinking of various ways I could display some of the materials that I've gathered while being here. The program and the listing of the speakers. The students need to know that. They need to know there's just a whole array of Native people who are sharing wonderful traditions and knowledge bases from whatever their specialties are. So that's one thing I'm going to do, put out my program in our living room at our place. We have created a place for students as a living room plus study rooms. And I will post things on the bulletin board and change them out because I've got a lot of them. And then when I meet with them individually as a mentor, I can share as the need or opportunity arises. There's a whole array of information, again, that I've stored away when a student asks me a question. Because of that, I've learned a lot here, and I thank all of you for that. Those who I was able to speak with individually during the lunch breaks or whatever. I learned from all of you. I appreciate the idea of bringing in the youth and through the lifespan to our group sitting up here. That's the way it is, isn't it? Indigenous way of honoring everyone. I love the idea of being an elder. For one thing, people tend to listen to me more than they used to. It's like, I belong to a council of elders in Rapid City, and I'm the elder of those elders. And one day we were having a potluck lunch, and I realized nobody was going into the kitchen to get food. And I said, "What's the holdup? We're all here." And one of the younger ladies said, "Bev, we're waiting for you." I thought, what power? What power I have. That they were waiting for me. They didn't tell me, but they were waiting for me to start. So that too is an honor. It's just an honor to be here today and to be an elder and share what I can. Congratulations to the planners of this great conference. Hopefully. Someday I hope to bring students here to learn from the people here. Thank you.
I too share Beverly's thank you to everybody here that made this possible for us to be here. I've been here before, and I had a bad experience at that time when I had just had my knee replacement, so I'm bionic up here. But I had that done, and I went and got stuck on the floor out there somewhere, but I landed. I said, I can fly. I flew before I landed really hard. So this time, I wore my moccasins. I said, with this, I can slip around. I don't need to get stuck. But today, I said, maybe I better wear my street shoes. But I too want to thank everybody for all the wisdom, everything I heard. Everything is so beautiful. And I said, oh, I'm in Emerald City. When I woke up, everything green. Because out home, everything is just rock, and dry, super dryness. But yesterday I mentioned that, Beverly said, it's an honor that people do everything for you now. And they look at it and I say, hey, I still can do this myself. But at home, when we have anything, especially the baby namings, we always are honored to be the first ones. They always, and the younger ones look around and say, hey, it's age before beauty. And I said, oh, okay. But everything is so different, turned around. Before, we used to just be passed along, hurry, 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 especially down at the school when I first started and not knowing a word of English, and it was so, and I was never clean enough for them. Even if I do bathe at home, I've had to run down to the spring to get my water to go up and take a bath. But when I got to school They threw me in the shower and soaked me up with lye soap. And when they were done scrubbing us down, never turned us white, but they scrubbed us down. And then they put kerosene all of our hair. Fortunately, we didn't have any fire sticks or anything around. Otherwise, we'd all be burning there. But they used to put kerosene in our hair, whether we had lice or not. We didn't have lice. My grandmother made sure we were clean. But nonetheless, that was my experience earlier in school. And then not knowing a word of English, I would say yes to everything. No matter if it was punishment or whatever, I said yes. That's what I learned first. So I can't even remember when I learned to, but I was reading about Dick and Jane. All of a sudden, Baby Sally, Spot, and I don't know how many of you remember Spot. But I started reading, and I wondered, when did I ever pick that up? But lo and behold, I worked my way through and did what I was doing, and I started teaching children, and I had my ideas of working with them because of what I went through. But when I was sent away to the boarding school, the Phoenix Indian School, my experiences weren't like some of them that they were talking about, the cruelty, everything, the embarrassment they went through. But I learned a lot. I just picked up where I had left off, leaving home, about self-sufficiency and all the good stuff of being disciplined and being responsible and making sure that I honestly do everything that they wanted me to. Even if it was like saving money and saving everything that we could, but I already had that. When I was growing up, we saved everything. We didn't waste anything. Our clothing were made out of things. The first time I remember my grandmother, we had a local rodeo where we always went, and I went there with a new blouse. I was all proud, and little did I know, I guess, that the flour that was being dispersed among all of us, we had saved it, and at one point they came out with printed flour sacks. And my grandma, with her hand by hand, sewed me a blouse. So I was so proud wearing my new blouse on that day of the rodeo. But everything was made for us. We didn't really have anything. I know wealth wasn't there, but all the love, attention, the care we had took the place of that wealth. Material things. So I don't value material things up to now. I still take care of everything the way I should. And I don't know, I added to that yesterday about telling about cod liver oil. We were all pointed out all the time about being malnutrition. But that wasn't because we just, that wasn't intentional. We had no choice. We didn't have very much. But what we had, we ate off the land. We grew everything we ate, and we gathered everything we ate. And I was grateful. And we used to go walking down below to the local school. We walked everywhere. We didn't have any transportation. Later on, we were considered really rich because we had a wagon. So that was our transportation. And then finally, I saw automobiles. So I was within that when the 40s, during the wartime when we had the ration stamps. So I went through that era too. So I think what I did for myself and for my family, I'm really proud and glad that I did tolerate a lot of things that I did to get where I wanted to go. So up to now, I still work in the community. I do like Beverly. I'm still there for the children. I can speak both languages, so I go down to the Tewa CD, and I was volunteering, teaching, or hoping to teach our language to our youth, because we are losing our language a lot at a rate that I don't appreciate. Then I go to the Hopi side, and I teach Hopi at school with one of my friends that teaches that over there. And then since we were constantly pushed for time to do all the ceremonies that we do, and it's just one thing after another seems like we do. We're constantly busy. So I said I was more organized when I used to work. I used to work and I used to go home recesses or anytime I could, lunchtime, to breastfeed my babies. And I had 6 of them and raised them all like that through my work. And then at the end, I was stuck taking care of my my mother and my dad. I took care of them during my work time. But once they passed on, then I started to have a little time to myself. So I treasure all the things that happened to me, even if some were not pleasant, but everything had a lesson in it, I think, for me. So I'm grateful for everything that's going on right now, and thinking that I'm done now. I'm retired. I can just stay home and do nothing. But there is always that urge to know I can't just sit in home and do nothing. I've got to do this, and I'm very concerned about our language. So I'm trying to see what else we can do about that, trying to get all our youth to start learning. So that's where I am, plus all our foods. I still take out my grandchildren, gathering things to eat, going out. Even if it's a husband's responsibility in the fields, more so than ever, I used to still help. And once, when corn is brought to your house, then it's the woman's responsibility to put them carefully, take care of them, put them away. We use every bit of the corn. We bundle the husks and have them strung up all over so that when they dry, we can use them. We use them for our foods, wrapping up our tamales and our what we call sumiviki. So I think our work is never going to be done until we're laid to rest like the corn. So thank you, everybody, for listening.
Can you hear me? Testing. I'm kind of used to doing that when I'm speaking to large crowds when I was administrator for the Hopi tribe, and so I do that every now and then, but just want to make sure that you're hearing what I'm saying. Dr. Warren this morning talked about a subject that I think is very, very close to all of us and what we experience with what's happening within our tribes and back then. And understanding that, I think, is really, really crucial for our youth to understand what happened back then. Because that's part of healing. We talk about healing. What I wanted to put out there for you, just from my knowledge that I have, and I did say that my knowledge was this much of Hopi, whereas my father and my grandfather, I think their knowledge was like this. And that's what my grandfather used to tell me, and my uncles. Our knowledge from Hopi, how life is and how we should live it, is like this. We know about the universe. We know about the environment. My grandfather used to go out in the morning when we get up early in the morning. He used to go out and look at the sky, look at the environment, and he would come back in and say, this is the way it's going to be today. They were able to read the environment. They had the knowledge what to look for. And I think that the one that kind of sparked it in a way was what was being told to us by Abigail, that the young men saw something out there. The teaching of Hopi is that if you are very committed to your religion and your practices, the Creator is going to show you something. It's going to show itself to you. Just like I experienced when I was overseas in Portugal. We stopped in at Portugal. And we went to what they call the Fatima. I don't know if you're familiar with Fatima. An angel has appeared to these 3 kids that were out there herding their sheep. And as a result of that experience, they built this huge memorial to that. But in Hopi, when something like that, when you see that kind of a experience where you see something, we build a shrine, and it's a small shrine. That's the difference between our thinking and that other people's thinking. We don't have huge monuments for our shrines. We have little monuments. And how we do it culturally to maintain that contact to the land and to our ancestral lands, we make those visits to those shrines. We make offerings to retract where our land used to be, because we don't have that land anymore. Our land base has been reduced on Hopi. But in our ceremonies, we continue to do that. Every year, we visit those shrines spiritually. Sometimes we do physically go out, but they're a distance away. Up in Utah, Arizona, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico. So I understand why people lose connection to their land in a way when they're physically moved. And I can see that. But there's still an attachment, like I was saying yesterday. From my knowledge that I have about Hopi is that when Hopi came to this world, they had the experience of the first world, the second world, the third world, and now we're in the fourth world. In those stages of moving from one world to another, each one was destroyed. The first one was destroyed. Why? Because we as humans forgot about our attachment to each other, our relationship, our caring, our passion for the land and animals. And as a result, it was destroyed. So the leaders from that first world moved to the next world. To a perfect world. It started as a perfect world, then it began to be destroyed. By who? By us. Because we forgot about that relationship that we have with the Creator. We promised Him. We made a covenant with the Creator to live in this way. But because we began to disrespect everything, the second world was destroyed. Third world. And as we moved from those worlds, our leaders, religious leaders, began to craft a perfect world at each stage. Well, we need to adjust this one here to the second world, third. Finally, in the fourth world, we had it perfected. But just watch. Humanity is going to destroy. We're going to destroy ourselves if we don't continue to have that connection to the Creator. We made that covenant. And each child that's born into this world is introduced to the Creator. At least in our practice, Hopi practice. And a prayer is made for that child. This is your path. We want you to walk this path in health until you finally meet the Creator again. That prayer is made when the infant is born, when they have that ceremony, Hopi ceremony. We call it the birthing ceremony. So today what I'm hearing is essentially how would you say it? Information from the research that's telling us what we already know in a way, but we kind of lost touch with that. How do we now keep this world the way it should be? It has to come from here. It has to come from your heart. Your belief in your religion. Your commitment that you have to the Creator. There are several ceremonies that we have on Hopi that teaches this. But now, like my wife said, the language is being lost. How do you interpret what this practice is about within our society, this ceremony? How do you transfer that knowledge? Hopi doesn't have a written language, so all of the knowledge is transferred verbally. Dalai Lama said one time that the only way that you can actually transfer knowledge and have it understood is to sit down with the individual and talk. Because the reflections from your voice, from the words that you put specific emphasis on, is transferred to the next person. You can't learn it from a book because it's not there. The emotions are not there. Dalai Lama said that's the way to do it, is to transfer the knowledge. You can't learn it from a book. Somebody has to teach you, show you the songs that the tribes have. That's how that's transferred. When you hear that song, we heard a song here. It was being sung. That's the way that we learn some of the message. So what I'm really grateful for is the research that our Native American natives, I don't know which other way to say it, but our own people are doing research, and they have a different way of thinking and understanding than the non-Indian. We have that ability to do that because we're Native Americans. We are the only ones that can interpret that. A non-native really can't. But we have our words where we're able to translate that. And I think Dr. Warren kind of touched on that in a way. Language is very important. So the information that's been shared in this conference really is, that's the direction that we need to go. It needs to come from the Native people, describing what we need to do with this world for our younger generation, so that they understand that life is really a belief in yourself and how you deal with it within your communities and your relationships. So the design of the Hopi world, like I was describing, was that the world that the Hopi developed, they had the individuals specifically there to help the population to remain healthy. We had our medicine people. We had our ceremonies. We didn't need hospitals back then, like I mentioned before. We had medicine people. And the way to deal with our health situation is you have to have a healthy population. You have to have the healthy population. You won't need hospitals. If I were healthy, like my grandfather never went to the hospital because there was no hospital at that time. My father, even though there was a hospital at Tuba City, he never went to the hospital because he was healthy. But me, see, I didn't watch my health. But what the disconnect is that I was not eating the right foods. I made decisions not to eat the natural foods. There's a saying that says that the earth is providing you the food. Every year, there are plants out there that we used to eat. Every year they're out there growing. And they're saying, come pick me. I'm your food. Come pick me. Are we doing that? And you know what that plant says to itself? I guess they don't need me anymore. So they disappear. Or we lose contact with them. We don't recognize them anymore. We might be stepping all over them outside our door. And that's our food. So that's what they say they. One last thing I wanted to, I guess maybe I'm taking too much time. One last thing I want to tell you about is that, well, maybe I shouldn't.
Come on.
This is a family story, and I tell this because sometimes we forget that, you know, we do things that really are funny in a way. And we were, my two sons, one of them, you know, physically, I guess in a way, when they're small, we have a hard time fitting them with clothes, you know. And one of my sons really had no butt, you know. In a way, it was hard to fit him, you know. So my wife was going from store to store. And we were going by, and every time they come out, oh, they don't have any pants to fit him. So they would go to another one. I would be out there waiting for them. And we saw this store, we went by, and Bun Huggers was the name of that store. You familiar with Bun Huggers? So they went in with my son. Go over here, I think that's what they're good. I think they'll fit him in there. Bun Huggers. So they went in. They came back out. They were really smiling. I was wondering what was happening. They came back, and that was a hamburger store. So go to Bun Huggers to buy your pants for your kids. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bonjour, Nindinawe Magani Dok Niji Bimadazik, Nudanetsikwe Indigo, Hope Indigenous Kazama, Ojibwe I want to say this, if you can, you touched on that about learning language. It's so important because there's so much in the language. That first thing, hello, all my different kinds of relatives, my fellow living beings. The spirits know me as Little Wind Woman, but I am called in that indigenous cause. It's like, it's fake. Like the government knows me as, I heard earlier, Hope. But your spirit name, that Indigo, means that the spirits know you as that. That's the true nature of your being. And then when you would speak in the Algonquin languages, you always have to change the whole way you see the world, because you have to think about that you're addressing every living being. The verb is different, the word is different. So if I said, Anish Manika Nabadabiwa Gema Adupawaning, how many living beings are sitting at that table? That's how you would say that. And I'd have to say 3, because there's 2 people in one plant. And that plant is just as alive as those 2 people are. And maybe there's a little ant over there that I can't see, or a spider over there that I can't see. That's just as alive as you and I are. It's so easy to try to forget that, you know. And some of you might say, oh, that old Hope. Who does she think she's? She's Seneca, she's talking Ojibwe. Well, I want to tell you this. That last speaker, thank you so much for telling your truth, because that happened to my family. And because of what happened in my family, my mom was so ashamed that we moved over this way. We moved away from our community. And she always thought that my sister and I were going to be taken away, because that happened all the time back in those days, that Native kids were taken away. So she gave us little necklaces, and she said, and I don't know how this was supposed to work, but she said, if ever they come to take you away from me, you know, find your way to the people. So she told me back then, we moved over here to Ojibwe country, and she said, you better be good to those elders. Whenever you see an elder, go offer them a drink of water, go sit with them, give them a cup of coffee, give them a ride, maybe give them some groceries, because that's the way to learn. They're going to teach you something. They're going to give you a precious gift because you're willing to spend time with them. And that's the truth. It doesn't have to be a whole lot. Last night I had to leave here because I had to go to a wake in our community right here in Minneapolis, and one of our elders passed away, and there was just two, including me, I guess there was three of us, and we started talking, and I know what those elders like to do. They like to tell stories. So part of the wake, too, was telling stories, and I said, one of them said she had been a friend, and they played all the time together. And I said, well, how did you used to play? Because I remember how I used to play. And she goes, oh, yeah, we were always outside, always with the trees, always with the plants. My mom would always encourage us to do that, like be outside, be with the trees and the plants. And I knew it was safe. It wasn't safe inside the house sometimes, but it was safe out in the woods. And we had to do work, so, the haying and when I was 10, it was like we did the haying. We made sure the fences were good. We made sure, my job was to clean the fish always when I was 10. But it was good because we did the work. I worry a little bit about that nowadays because the young ones, they do a lot of this, and they're not doing that face-to-face that we're hearing. And that is really important. Do that face-to-face with an elder. Spend some time with an elder. If you're an elder, spend some time with a young one if you can. Because that's that gift. That's that gift, that exchange. So last night I'm talking to these two elders, and they talk about, oh yeah, I remember how I always used to hang up the net for my family. And the other one was talking about, we'd go down there and we'd put things away down up there at Red Lake. We'd get things ready and we'd clean up the fish and all that. So they were talking, we'd put them in boxes and all that. So they would talk about their work and then their play. And I asked them, I said, well, I just went netting 3 weeks ago. I went netting up in Canada, and we got a whole bunch of fish, and I, cleaned up, and, the one who gets it gets to pick what they want. I guess that's the old way too, where and then certain people get other parts. So I said, well, I wanted those sucker heads because that's an old soup, was the sucker head soup. And we knew that the sucker head, that's good for arthritis. It's got a lot of cartilage in there. You have that natural food. Nobody eats that anymore. These two ladies said, well, I don't think I'd eat it anymore. I'm like, wow, it's good food. But some people think it's bush food. It's the old style Indian food. It's no good. That's something we've got to work through. These younger ones don't think this way. I'm looking at two of my old students, and I know right there, those guys, you guys are brave. You would eat that wild food. That's what we need to do is introduce them to that. So I told them, I said, yeah, I got 2 sucker heads. I want to make some soup. And, the other one said, when I was little, we always used to snare rabbits. And she goes, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I could eat a rabbit anymore. I said, geez, these old fancy stores over here, these Lunds and Byerly's, said I bought a rabbit for $35. It's like, holy man. And that was survival food back in the day, So part of it was the trees were cut down. So there weren't the big meats anymore. You had to go live off of those little wabuzoog, those little rabbits. For me, the biggest lesson is the plants, though. I was always told that every plant has its gift of food, medicine, or utility. Every single one has its gift. And the old stories say they came here to give their gift. So respect their gift, and they'll come closer. So when you put around here, they put tobacco. It might be the red osier dogwood, the red willow. It doesn't have the nicotiana. It might be what you're using. You follow your family, whatever your family says, and you put that down as the offering before you pick. And then you talk to that plant. And I always heard that they understand our old languages. They know what we're saying. They know they're being appreciated. Then they come closer They show up. So this year for ricing camp, I was up in Canada ricing, 3 weeks ago. And they were having a hard time with ricing. And they said up there, well, the rice is wormy. And they said it's because people haven't been doing their thank yous. And they're sending some airboats out there. And they're not doing the physical work. So the airboats would collect. Well, yeah, I mean, maybe you get more rice faster. But where's that muscle work? Where is that learning? Where's that listening? So I got to go up there. Ricing with one of the ladies that was interning with me, and she really wanted that language. And now 3 years later, she's pretty good. She it doesn't take that long if you really put your mind to it, And we were listening. I said, hey, listen to that. She goes, what do you hear? I said, I hear people laughing. It's kids. There's kids laughing and giggling and screaming, playing, Then a little later, I hear it again. Do you hear that? And there was a big oh, like a giggle like that. And then the third time, I heard it again. So I went back, and the fellow who had taken us out there said, these are our old ricing grounds from when I was a little boy. And each island, community members and families would have their island and go out ricing from that particular island. And he said, the Mimengwesiwag, they live back in there, and they rice here too, the little people. So some people would say, wow, you just make that up, those little people. Not true. Listen, talk to elders. What I learned from listening is that I hear that in our old way of thinking, there's those 4 layers, like you were talking about. And you see different things. When you get clearer, when you eat our traditional foods, when you listen to these traditional teachings, you're going to see and understand in a different way. Time happens differently. It's not linear anymore. It goes like this. And if you go to the shake tents and some of our old ceremonies, they travel that way. That's where some of those miraculous healings, you go like, wow, it's a miracle. How could it happen? It won't happen anymore. Don't believe them. Learn the language. Start spending time with the plants. Those things are still here. They don't have to leave. They're still here. So if you go back to our ways and start eating our plants, you'll be able to hear. You'll be able to hear them better. You'll be able to hear those teachings more clearly. There's a word called Anikujibaganug, which is talking about the connections. Like it's like a chain. As far as you can see that way, as far as you can see that way, it's the ancestors. And we're one of those links. You're in there. You can travel along that line. You can learn those teachings. Physics is just figuring it out. And we got it right in our language. It's right in the language how this works. So it's a beautiful thing if you get a chance to come back and learn some of these things. I am so blessed that I get to be up here with these knowledgeable people that I get to work with this knowledgeable fellow right here. I get so thankful every time I think about peace. I think of him praying, because every day at Dream of Wild Health, he starts the day with prayers with our young ones. And it's such a beautiful way. And we do a circle, and we're reminded about that opening, the birth canal between the two worlds. We go in and out of that birth canal as we circle around and honor the circle of life, the baby, the youth, the adult, the elder, those 4 directions. And then we go put our tobacco offerings down to be thankful for that one day, that we get that gift of one more day. It's a beautiful thing to be able to do that. And I know there's going to be struggles, I mean, that's why we're here. You go through that struggle, and now you give that gift to the next one that doesn't have that gift yet, that hope. And I know I had to go through that, forgive the perpetrator too, my dad, because I look at him and he moves his hands like the way I moved my hands. His face looked like my face. And I'm so thankful I got to do that before he died, So I know in this journey of healing, there's a lot of work, and it's hard, but it's worth it. And I honestly think we're not here on vacation on this earth. There's a lot of things we have to learn while we're here. So do your work while you're here. Because you don't want to have a do-over. Hey. So, miigwech misendao ye. That's it. Thank you for listening.
Yeah. Wow. What a group. What a group here. You know, that's one of the things when you get a group of elders around, they like to tell stories. And in these stories, they share a lot of their life with you. You know, I was very fortunate. I grew up with my grandparents from both sides of my family, and I knew my great-grandfather. My great-grandfather gave me my name, Date Ba'e, which means strong old man. And so when I was a young child, we would ask each other, what's your Indian name? And sometimes, you know, the other members of my family, the boys, would have names like Flying Eagle and Big Bear, you know, these real romantic names, you know. And they'd say, what's yours? And I'd go, Date Ba'e. I said, what? Date Ba'e. So what does that mean? It means strong old man. And when you're a kid, you know, you don't want to be called strong old man. Come on, you know. So the reason I was given that name was because as a child I was very sickly and I was not expected to live to be a year old. And so my great-grandfather had a ceremony for me, and in that ceremony he gave me that name, Strong Old Man. And he said it was so that I could grow and live to be a strong old man. And I lived to be 10 years old knowing that I was not expected to live, you know, past a certain age. Then 20 came, 30 came, 40. Probably it wasn't until I was 50 years old that I realized the power of that name. So all of you that have your names, think of it as power. That's your power. That's why they gave you that name. You have that name, you know, that's your connection. Everyone here has talked about that connection that we have, you know, through our names. And so I realized that this name had brought me this far. This name had carried me through this life, you know. And as Native people, my brother, you know, tells me that life is just another bump in the road, you know. That life is full of bumps. You get over one and it's good. You get over another one, it's good, you know. And so I realized that along with living that long, it's a blessing. It's a blessing, you know. Providing that you take care of yourself, you know, you take care of your body, you know. And I really enjoyed my adopted sister Donna's exercises this morning. You know, I think that's something that more of us need to do. You know, I'm guilty of that. I exercise, but sometimes I don't feel like I exercise enough, you know. So when I look back, growing up, you know, in the different places that I've been, the different things I've done, I've been very fortunate in my lifetime. I've been able to accomplish the things that I had set out to do. I became the artist that I wanted to be. I became a full-time artist. I became an educator. I taught in college. I traveled all over the world. I've done many things in my lifetime, and I'm very grateful to be able to do these things, you know. And so we talk about getting older, and I really like what Beverly had to say about, the benefits of getting older. You get to go first in line. You get cheaper movie tickets, Some places give you real good prices. Savers has Senior Day, Goodwill. There's many things to getting older that you can look forward to. So I look back and I look forward. Part of looking back is our history, the history of who you are, the history of your people, your land, your language, your culture. And as many of us here know, that's who we are. We are our culture. We are our language. We are our people first. Then we get a name. Then we get our name. And we have to look at where we have been and what we have done, but we also have to share that knowledge and that wisdom as elders. That's part of the responsibility of being an elder, is being able to share that knowledge that you've acquired, because that knowledge certainly wasn't handed to me. You had to learn it and earn it, And, sometimes you look back when you get older, and it's very sad because you see all the people that have gone on before you. Your family, your friends, your relatives. And that's the sad part. But I don't dwell on that. I think of the good things when I knew these people, the goodness of what we did, And I can't dwell on that, even though it's hard, even though that's the hard part of getting older, is to see all the people go. And with that, we have the new people coming. And that's what it's about, that younger generation. I've heard so many good things since I've been here, all the wonderful speakers, all the knowledge, all the wisdom. And it's coming from our people, We are addressing our own issues, and that's the way it should be. And we need to find the solutions ourselves. We need to deal with it. And if we wait, we know what waiting is like. We've been waiting a long time for a lot of things. It's not going to happen. We have to do it on our own. We can't wait around for somebody to come in and correct these things. And so that's what I do now as cultural director, is I work with young people. I'm an advocate for young people because they are our future. They are our leaders. They are the ones that are going to resolve a lot of the mistakes that we made. And I'm not proud to say that, but we have done things, all people, as part of what is happening to this earth today. Some things we can correct, some things that we can undo what we're doing. We have to rethink and retrain ourselves. And that's part of that decolonization that everybody talked about, is that mentality that we have. There was a time when people were communal thinkers. We thought as communal people. Now there's so much individuality stressed in this culture, on you. In a communal thought process, everyone is thinking in that direction. Everyone is working toward that goal. We're working together as a community. I'm not trying to disrupt it and go this way and do it my way. I'm doing it as a group with the community. And so some of that, we talk about our communities. We have to rebuild our communities also in that mindset of what is a community. A community is not a place where you reside, A community is your people. A community is who you are. And so if we take all these ideas today and the last few days that have been shared with us, the knowledge and the wisdom, you look at yourself, every one of you, as a seed. You are all a seed. Now you have to plant that seed. Coming from a farmer's perspective, you are all going to be a plant. You're going to go back to your community, and you're going to plant these seeds, and you're going to watch it develop and grow, and you're going to take care of that. And what will happen, other crops will come up because you showed them. You showed your people what you can do, what has to be done, and they will follow. I believe in teaching with love, that we teach with love. And that's what we have to remember when we teach, because we as Native people have been through a horrific experience with education. Many times our ancestors did not encourage us to go to school because of what they felt and what they suffered, you know? And so it's kind of really hard sometimes to look at that historical element, but we have to move on. You know, we have to move on. I encourage all the young people to get an education, you know, to go on to school, because you can make change that way. You can make change with your people. So take these seeds back home with you. Take these seeds home, plant these seeds, and become that plant for your community, and other plants will follow. It's kind of like what has been said about our plants and our language and our culture. If you don't use it, you will lose it. So use these ideas that you've been given. Go home and use them, and we're going to have another big gathering again. I see it. I know it. You know, we're all going to pull together. And this is just a start. This is just a start of what we're doing. We're a movement. We're a movement here. And you all are part of that movement. So thank you all for listening. Thank you all for being here. I want to thank the organizers of this wonderful conference, Shakopee Tribe, the university, all the people that are involved in this. Thank you. Aho.
All I can say is, wow. It was hard staying on the stage. Truly honored to be able to sit on the stage with these fine folks, and truly cherished every word that you shared with us, and so deeply appreciate. You have accepted your responsibility as elders, and what fine elders you are. My Indian name is Wabi Guinash, and Wabi thanks you very, very much. How about a big hand and a stand up for these folks?